Today, we're talking about systems. In fact, 3 essential systems that you need in order to make your business or your passion project more profitable. My guest is Kate Gremillion, a business systems strategist and the owner of Work Well with Kate, where she works with women entrepreneurs to streamline their businesses so that they can be more profitable and less busy. I don't know about you, but that is something I'm definitely interested in, so let's do this. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I have the pleasure of connecting with someone who is a recent friend in my life, and you guys have heard me talk about masterminds a ton, and I recorded an episode about doing an informal mastermind, which is sort of how we met. So Kate and I connected in Sedona. I somehow talked myself into being invited on a retreat that you and your amazing entrepreneur friends were going on already, and that's where you and I connected. So it's fun to get to hang out again.
Totally. And it was absolutely meant to be. We were all so psyched that you joined us. I think good energy just attracts good energy. So we knew anyone that would want to come, you just feel good about that.
And it's funny because this year has been a big year of no, or actually 2019. Now we're already in 2020, but 2019 was a big year of no for me, in order to clear space so that when opportunities just like that one pop up, I can say, well, heck yeah, I've got a couple days free. I'd love to drive up to Sedona.
Absolutely. Yeah. And making space for those kind of impromptu opportunities. And it just was an amazing week, amazing weekend. We learned so much from each other.
We had the best time, and going around the room, hearing from, I think there were 4, 5, 6 of us, I lost count, all amazing women, all such different backgrounds. And as I sat back and listened, I'm thinking, that would make a great podcast. That would make a great podcast. So I can't wait to work through the entire group, but you get to be the first one, other than, of course, Jess, who invited me to be a part of the week with all of you. But I knew that this topic for sure was one I wanted to dive into when you were talking about not just your philosophy on systems for a business, but of course, you have a system for the way you set up systems, or you help business do that. So we're going to get into all of that and why it is crucial for a business to have those systems in place. But I just want to start with your story and how in the world you came to become this business systems strategist. Like, how does one wake up and become that? Tell me the story.
Yeah. So the short answer is you don't. I don't think anyone wakes up and is like, I love systems. I've yet to meet someone who does that. And I was the same way. So I started my first business, I want to say 9 years ago. So I started a career coaching. To say it was a company at first would be very generous. It was a career coaching blog that I started, a while ago, 7 or 8 years ago. And just like many people that start a business, I was clueless. I was like, I know there's this thing I love. I know that there is some way to monetize it. I'm just going to throw spaghetti at the wall until something works out. I'm just going to keep doing that. And so I kept just trying new things, always reading new books, listening to new podcasts, trying to find out what was that magic thing, right? These secrets, these myths, what's the magic thing that makes your business work? And I was searching for that for so long. I eventually went to an event and I realized that I was the only entrepreneur there. I was with a bunch of other really seasoned entrepreneurs. I was the only one there, constantly checking my phone, constantly having to do client work, kind of always having to be in my business rather than being present at this event and being able to just think about my business and work on my business. And so I remember leaning to the guy next to me and I was like, what's the deal? What does everyone here know that I don't know? And I remember him telling me, he was like, it's so important to put systems in place that allow you to step away. And that was the first time I even really got acquainted with this CEO versus business owner mindset and really managing like a CEO. And so that's what I did. I started to slowly but surely put systems into place in my former business. And with every system I put in place, I saw dramatic, not only growth in my company from profitability, but a dramatic decrease in the time that I was spending. And it felt like such a crazy revolution, because I think our mindset is, if I work more, I get more.
Yeah.
If I work more, I make more money. And the opposite was actually true for me. And it was true for every single business owner that I met that was in a place where I wanted to be. The ones that were kind of like hustling all-nighters, kind of glorifying this burnout mentality, they didn't have systems, and they didn't prioritize their time, and they didn't think, how can we do this more efficiently? All they thought about was next dollar, next dollar, next dollar. And so I think for me, I realized how important putting systems in place was, to the point where at this point, it was like 5 years into our career coaching company, as many people that were asking me about career coaching were asking me about how to make your business successful. And the answer was always systems. It just always was. And so my mentor came to me and he was like, I know you've built this successful career coaching company, but a lot of people want to learn about systems, and you know a lot about it now. Like, maybe you should transition and start really focusing on that. So that's really what I did. I moved out of my former business, and there's pieces of it that are still running and growing. And now my focus is to help women entrepreneurs realize that when you put systems in place, you can grow your income but decrease your busy work. And that is a complete lifestyle change for all of the women that I work with. So now I do wake up every day and I'm like, yay, systems. But it was not like that at the beginning, for sure.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I think those of us that have stepped into the light, even putting your first baby system in place, it's one of those things that becomes addicting, because it buys you time back. And that's the thing we're all craving more of, whether it's to spend on a more crucial part of our business or to spend doing things that we love with the people we love. So I'm team systems all the way. I mean, if that is a team, if not, let's start it, because
totally
I think it would take off really quickly. So talk a little bit about how specifically you work with businesses. And we're going to get into like some of your products in the course that you have later on. But for those who maybe are new to this conversation, maybe they don't even have a business yet, or they just have the seed of that idea, I want to set them up to go in thinking about systems from the get-go. I wish I would have done that. So let's set them up to do that, and just share a little bit of like, how do you take a business and show them how to implement these systems, and what do you mean by systems?
Yeah, that's such a great question, because I think the word systems can be so foreign for people. And really, it's just a process for how something works. So you can have all kinds of systems. You can have a system for how you make your coffee. You can have systems for anything. It's just, what's the process for how this thing gets done? And so I think one of the key systems or key processes that so many people either don't think about when they're starting a business or think about too late is thinking about focusing on what I call my 1-1-1 method. And so this is focusing on solving one problem for one type of person with one process. I think when we get excited as entrepreneurs, we say, I'm going to be an author and a speaker and a coach, and I'm going to start this retreat company, and I'm also going to be doing this. And the truth is that scattered actions lead to scattered results. And so the most important process to put in place is focus, and just focusing on what I call your operations process with this 1-1-1 method, thinking of what's the most important problem that I can solve, who's the person who needs this the most, and what does solving that problem look like? If you can answer those 3 questions, you're ahead of like 80% of entrepreneurs, because so many of us, we think like, man, I'm really passionate about this thing, but what problem does it solve, and who needs it most, and how do I solve that problem? And if you can't have just one narrow answer to that question, it's going to lead to maybe even years, like definitely months and weeks of just turmoil, kind of throwing that spaghetti at the wall. So I think we start with bare bones and say, okay, what from an operational perspective do I need to have in place to make this business successful, and focus on one first before you start to scale the next one.
And I love how you said focus on solving one problem for one person. Now, of course, we don't necessarily mean that has to be one individual human, but like one demographic of people. And I can relate to that from a personal level. I also see others around me who are, shall we say, multi-passionate. And it's confusing. It's confusing to people around us. There's not someone who could say, oh, you need X, you need to talk to Lindsay. And is that ultimately the point we want to get to?
Exactly. That's exactly it. Jess, our mutual friend, always jokes that we can't have Cheesecake Factory menu businesses. And what she means by that is like, I go to Lindsay and it's like, I want meatloaf, spaghetti, salad. Like no one thinks, oh, I have a craving for something, I'm going to go to this specific place, when you offer 20 different things, exactly like what you said. And so the example I use with a lot of my clients is I'm like, what's the first word that comes to mind when you think of Google?
I mean, search, right?
Exactly. So they do lots of other things. They have Google Drive, they have Gmail, all these other things. But the thing that they doubled down on at first was just helping you search for the things that you need. That was what they did first and became known for that thing. Then they were able to scale. So someone might say, well, I know this entrepreneur like Sarah Blakely. She now has, a book and she hosts these events, but she started with Spanx. And she like put her stake in the ground. I'm solving the problem of women having underwear that they can see under their white pants. And I'm doing it for, professional women. And I'm doing it through selling this specific product. And so she was able to answer that 111 and scale that so that now that she's already known, she's able to do these other things. And so I think we get caught up thinking, I need to do everything all at the same time. I need to write a book. I need to have a TED Talk. I have to have this business going. And the truth is that's the recipe for failure. That's a recipe for just trying to task switch too often, trying to get too much done with so little time. And so, like you said, when I work with businesses, I go in and I joke, I do a CEO purse dump. I'm like, everything you got in that CEO purse, you dump it on the table. And we realize that you're doing so many things that either aren't revenue generating, aren't essential, or aren't meeting the purpose and the mission of your company. And so that's really my first step when I go and work with someone is we do that purse dump and that audit and see actually 70% of the things you're doing in your business are not leading to a profitable, sustainable business. And so we need to retool and focus on that 111, solving that one problem for one type of person with one process.
I love it so much. And just that analogy of doing a purse dump. I think we can all just visually imagine how much of a nightmare that inside of the bottom of a purse is. So my question, I think the natural follow-up question, putting myself in the shoes of someone who's maybe at that beginning stage or is listening to this and realizing they've got some reevaluating to do is, are there certain questions or maybe a certain process that you take people through to identify what their one thing and their one person would be?
Yeah. Absolutely. So that process typically looks like, what have you already done really well? And so I think so many of us, when we start a business, it's not the first time we're thinking about that thing or doing that thing. So when I started my career coaching business, it's not like I had no experience advising people on their careers and then I just decided I'm going to be a career coach. So most of us have that experience somewhere. And so the thing I say is look at those experiences. Maybe you want to start 7 different businesses. Which one has the highest contribution to the people you're serving? So a great example is I know a lot of women who want to start marketing agencies or they want to be a marketer. And so they're like, okay, I'll market for Facebook and Pinterest and Instagram and Twitter. And so I'll stop them and I'll say, which one of these has the highest contribution for the person you're serving? And it makes them stop and think oh, I don't have to do all of this. I have to do one of these things really well and do it for one specific person. And the beauty of that is when you get hyper specific, people see the inherent value in it and you can show them specific results. So I joke that it's like holding up a mirror. It's like people can look in there and see I need those results. That's for me. And they can say easier, or they can say yes, a lot easier because they see what that result's going to get them. So if I say I'm a marketer, most people don't know what marketing means. They're like, is that ads? Is that, writing social media copy? But if you're like, I help women with Pinterest strategy, I help them go from 0 to 10 clients in a month through just using Pinterest. It's like, I know exactly what you're going to do for me. I know exactly the process you're going to use. And I'm going to know that I want 10 more clients as a creative business. So this is for me. So really by being, I say clear is kind, being really clear on what you are offering.
I love that.
audience because you're not making them do as much legwork. They're able to
Yeah.
really focus in. So if you have a ton of things on your plate that you're considering doing, like the author, speaker, calligrapher, all those things, lay all those things out on the table and say, which of these has the highest contribution to the person I'm trying to serve? What's going to be my highest contribution as a business owner?
Oh, I love that. And that's such a different way of framing that question than I've heard before. So I'm so glad you shared that.
Yeah.
So that's system number one. Identify one problem you're going to solve for one person and the one process to solve it.
Mhm.
Then talk to me a little bit about the next type of system that you help businesses put in place, which I know we both have a lot to say on this because it's sales systems. And I love sales. Sales is one of my favorite things to talk about, and that's not always the case with businesses. So talk to me about the importance of a sales system and your methodology for helping companies create that.
Absolutely. It just warms my heart that we both love sales systems because I was someone who was terrified of sales when I first started out.
Same.
I mean, it's just, there's so much emotion around money. There's so much guesswork around pricing. And so I think because of that, because we think we're just throwing prices together or just kind of putting things out into the world, hoping people say yes, it leads to a lot of anxiety and insecurity and frustration when it comes to sales. And so I think the first thing that most of my clients don't do that they should is make sure that they're priced for profitability. So the big mistake I see so many people make is when they're pricing their thing, the two questions they ask is, how much do you think people will pay for this?
Mhm.
And then they also ask, what do you think is the market rate? What are my competitors charging?
Yeah.
That is the worst way to price your services or your products because ultimately you're just going to whittle yourself down and you're going to go lower and lower and lower because it's dependent on other people's opinions and no one wants to pay more than they have to. So if you ask your friends, how much are you willing to pay for this? They're going to tell you less than what you probably should be charging for it because they want to pay less.
Yeah.
And so the system I walk through with my clients is we start with the goal of getting your salary in place. So if that number is 100 grand, if that number is 50 grand, if that's, I want to make 20 grand from my business, we start with that number and reverse engineer and say, how much do we need to charge and how many people can we actually work with to make this number? And so it becomes a very easy equation. We price it for this, we work with this many people, we make the money we need to make. Now people might say, okay, I want to make $1 million, so I need to make prices at $1 million. Is that fair? And I say, of course not, depending on what the service is. So what I do is after I price it, I say, what value does this have to offer to make this absolutely worth it? And so then I look back and I say, okay, for me personally, let's say my course is $500. I look at that course and instead of saying, do I think people will pay for this? I say, what do I need to put in this course to make $500 a no-brainer for them? So then instead of working on the price, because you'll spend hours going back and forth and the truth is you never get to the right answer, spend all that mental energy and guesswork in your course or in your product or in your service and making it worth that amount. Because the truth is people pay for a $10 t-shirt and they think they paid too much. And some people pay for a $200 t-shirt and think they got a steal. And it's all about perceived value. So there's no right price, but there's a right perceived value. And you're spending your time in the wrong place on your system if you're guessing and emotionally kind of checking on your price. Where you should be spending that energy is thinking about, how do I add crazy value with this to make the price irrelevant?
Okay, I was having this exact same conversation with someone yesterday, sharing that that was a mistake I had made early on, is asking myself that question of what would people pay for this versus everything you shared. And then I would love to hear your thoughts on this too. I think the other piece is, what value would I put on this that energetically would make me excited to go to work for that price every day? And then reverse engineering, well, okay, if that number is now 5,000 instead of the 2,000 I had started at, then where do I add that additional value, like you said, to make it a no-brainer? So how much do you take into consideration just even your energetic exchange, the work that you're putting into it?
Huge. I'm so glad that you said that because it's such a big piece of it. Because if you feel like you're getting ripped off, you're going to do not as great work or subpar work. And that's going to show. And I think so many people don't realize that your service system, how you service people, really is your sales system. Because let's say
Yeah.
you service people and you don't do a good job, you don't have referrals, you don't have testimonials, and your sales system kind of dies off. And so you need to be excited about working for that client or through that service. And so you need to have a price that's absolutely worth it. And I think the main problem that I see is that women don't value themselves or their service enough. And so they'll get excited for a number that really even should be higher than that. And so I think a big part of my clients' work with me is thinking like, yes, what makes you excited? And also what gets you to that number that you thought was ridiculous before, but can be such a no-brainer price for so many of the people you want to work with. And so that feeds into that first system of who are those people we want to be serving, and how do we make sure those people see the value in this product? Because just like you, Lindsay, you offer an amazing, insanely valuable experience. And so there are people that are willing to throw great money at you because they realize the value in it. And so there are other people who offer similar services. And that's why I hate when people price themselves based on their competitors, because the truth is no one is you. And even if they offer the same service under the same title, they can have completely different value add experiences. Yeah. And so stop looking at your competition. Stop looking at everyone else's prices. Stop asking your customers what they think they should pay or whatever it is. And look internally, and exactly what you said. Think about the energy you want to put into it, what you'd be excited to go to work for, and then add enough value to make it a no-brainer for the people that are investing.
Yeah. I love this conversation so much. I want to hang here for just another moment, because we were talking before we turned on the microphones about a theme that is showing up around both of us lately about, and I think it really just dives deeper into this psychology behind pricing and selling our offers, especially if you know energetically that you want to be offering something that is a higher ticket, and higher ticket could mean any number for you. What's high ticket to me might not be the same as high ticket to you, but I've had my own experience with this. And share with me what you were saying about that confidence level in selling something at a price that feels like a stretch.
Absolutely. And so that value add piece is such a big part of this, and realizing that if you want to be charging at a certain level, you want to be charging for high ticket, you want to be charging $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. If you yourself are not comfortable making that level of investment in your business or in yourself, you can't energetically ask with confidence for someone else to do the same thing. So for example, I'll have clients of mine that purchase a $500 course. They are now comfortable charging $500 for something they've made because they can put themselves, and they have put themselves in a position of paying that much for something valuable. I realized that for them, a $5,000 investment might seem crazy, which makes it hard for them to then charge $5,000 because it seems like too much. But with the amount they start to invest in their business, the more they invest in their business, the more confident they are in asking for that investment because they've made it themselves and they see the value in it. And so if you're wanting to charge higher ticket, if you're wanting to charge more, if you're wanting to grow your business, that only grows in correlation with the amount that you invest in yourself. You can never outgrow your personal and professional development. So if you think, oh my God, I can't ever imagine spending $7,000 on systems, that's crazy, then you also are going to have a very hard time hopping on a call and asking someone and telling them it's $7,000 for this, because your subconscious is saying, this is crazy, no one will go for this, because that's what you believe about yourself. Right. And so Lindsay, I know you invest in high level masterminds. I know you invest in your business at a high level. I do as well. That's how you get confident in selling at a high level, because then it just becomes a dialogue of, do you see value in this or not? If you do, awesome, let's continue. And it becomes so much less about that conversation in the back of your head and more like, I've done this before and I know other people can do this too.
Yeah. Oh, it's so, so good. And I know you guys have heard me talk about it until I'm blue in the face, just the value of investing in yourself at whatever that next level for you is. For me, it started out investing in e-courses and in-person events, and then eventually investing in a mastermind, then investing in a mastermind this year that was twice the price that stretched me last year. However, I do want to say this because I was putting myself back in the shoes of the woman that was afraid to make those investments before. And I will say that when you're making those bigger investments, you do want to do your homework. You do want to make sure that you're learning from people who are going to push you and stretch you and help you. Not just anyone can invite you to spend a few $1,000s in a coaching program, but does this person have the kind of business that you would want to emulate? Because when you put yourself in rooms with those type of people, your learning curve does just speed up exponentially, because they create the environment that has you then energetically step in to the person that owns having made that investment. Because I also have seen friends make investments in things, but then nothing in their life changes. And I think then the confidence level stays about the same as it was. So you've got to step in and then be willing to shift your identity to match the investment you just made, therefore adding additional value to the people that you want to serve and being able to ask for higher prices.
Absolutely. It's the perfect words you put to it, identity shift.
Yep.
It's the shift in, I'm someone, like, I remember we had this conversation a while ago with a group program I'm a part of. And when a lot of people start out, they use the word like, oh, I'm just a little business, or I'm just starting out, or like, I'm just like the small, tiny business. And even believing that about yourself keeps your investment at a low level, because you think, my business is just small. Why would I make a $10,000 investment in something that's just small? And so if you start to aspirationally put yourself in these positions you want to be in, or financially invest in these positions you want to be in programs that are, tested and that are credible, then the identity shift happens. And you start to say, I am someone who pays for coaches at a high level. I am someone who pays someone to build my systems. I am someone who goes to masterminds. And that type of person can charge 10 grand for their coaching program, but not someone who doesn't make that. So even by making those investments, you are committing to yourself and you're telling yourself, like, I am this type of person. And then once you believe it, other people believe it about you too. Yeah. And so I think for me, the first step is always action. And like you said, definitely do your homework. Make sure that person is credible. They have testimonials. They, in their package are detailing the things that you really want. But when you invest in the right people, something in your brain changes and you start to see yourself differently. And so overnight, just by thinking and wishing, you don't become the person that you want to be. You have to take steps in order for that to happen.
Yeah. Oh, I want to shout amen in the middle of this podcast, but we'll save that. We'll save that for the end.
After this.
I want to leave some time to get to the third type of system that you lay out, which is a service system. So talk to us about that and how that really ties all of this together with the most beautiful bow.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that, exactly like you said, is kind of like the cherry on top. And it's the thing that I really believe sets people apart, the really successful businesses from the just successful businesses. And this gets easier when you do that 1-1-1 method, because really your service system is your secret sauce of how you solve those problems. It's how you do that for your clients. And when you have that service system laid out and clear, that's when you're able to scale, because you can repeat that same system over and over and over again. So I tell my clients that want to be, 3 different types of service providers. They're like, I want to do coaching, I want to host events, I want to do all this. That means every single time you work with a client, you have to reinvent the wheel, because you're offering so many different things. So when you solve one problem and you have it with that streamlined service system, that can be duplicated, replicated, and that's how you scale that business. And so I think so often we think about the money coming in the door and we get excited, and then we think about how many people we have to work with, and we're like, oh crap, 30 people signed, yay, but now I have to actually do the work. And so it's so important to outline a repeatable client journey or a repeatable service system to make sure that you can bring in other team members, you can automate parts of it, and really make it something that has as little time attached to it from start to finish outside of the direct work with your clients. So I'm talking about all that minutia that we typically work on, like sending the contracts, sending the invoices, making sure they have their welcome email, making sure that they have a link to their Dropbox, whatever that is. If you can outline your ideal service system, your ideal client journey, and then think, what in here can I automate? What in here can I outsource? That's when you're thinking like a CEO. That's when you can really scale your business. So if you're at a place where you're like, I have my hands in every single part of my business and I'm barely making it by, and I'm up till 11 p.m. and I still haven't talked to my husband or made dinner or whatever, focus on that service system. Focus on getting that service system as automated and streamlined as it possibly can be, because then people coming in the door and paying you money is exciting rather than overwhelming, and that's where so many people lead to burnout. They quit their business. They decide, I'm not going to do this. And that is the thing that has really saved so many of my clients, is putting those service systems in place so that now they can go on the Today Show, market their business, 1,000 people sign up, and they can handle that capacity because they have that automated service system.
This conversation alone, or really the question at the heart of it, which is what is that ideal system, completely revolutionized my business in the last year, because I was still doing everything. And there were so many things I could think to offer or create, that when I thought through every minute detail, because my brain is very detail oriented. If yours isn't, this probably is even more stressful. But I would think, okay, when someone signs up on the website, I would want them to get this email and then automatically be added to this list. And then they get a request to join this Facebook group. And if you're physically doing all of those steps, it was hours upon hours of work that could be automated. So what are some of your favorite ways to automate that maybe are not obvious to those who are newer to this systems conversation?
Yeah, I think there are so many things that I joke that there's a good balance between canned and custom. So canned being something that's automated, custom being something you're doing yourself. And I think for everyone, the real system or platform is different, but I want everyone to look at their business and think, if a robot did this, would my client notice? And if
Ooh, that's a great question.
and because for some people, they're like, I don't want to automate this. Then it feels sleazy and slimy and not genuine. The truth is, you're being kind and actually more generous to your clients by automating the things that don't require you, because that gives you back time to do the things that are really important. If I'm hiring a web designer, I don't care at all if you're the one sending me my invoice, if you're the one sending me my contract, if you're the one delivering the final things. I want you to be designing. That's my goal for you. And so that's the question I want you to ask yourself is, if a robot did this, would my client notice or would my client care? If the answer is no, that's what needs to be automated. And so the truth is, and that's the question I get so often, people are like, what's the best system for this? The truth is, there's no best platform or system for anyone. It's what's best for you. So I have some clients where they have a business where they have 10 employees. Some of them have 100 employees. Some of them are solopreneurs. Each of them needs a different platform and different tools to make it work. But the question I'm always asking is, if you specifically yourself, Lindsay, Kate, didn't do this, would your client or would your customer care or notice? If the answer is no, those are the things you have to automate to scale.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I went through with a small group at the end of the year. I think it was actually just before or just after we were all together in Sedona. We did a 1-day mastermind, and we really dug into a process that, like I said, changed my business, which I sat down and I literally, I laid out every little action that I took for a week. And I stepped back and I noticed where it was literally sucking the life out of me to have to do those things, and where I felt like I was most on purpose. And my goal is always, I check back in every once in a while. My goal is to have, let's say I highlight in pink the things that are sucking life, and in yellow the things that are giving life, to have more yellow than pink. And it really, seeing it on paper really forced me to make some difficult decisions. When I could see it laid out in front of me, it was so obvious that something had to give, or I was going to be the thing that got in the way of my business growing, and ultimately got in the way of the impact that it could make. And it was that conversation with myself that really had me look at creating systems or hiring or outsourcing in a totally different light.
Absolutely. So many of my clients joke that like I'm the woman in the khaki pants from Hoarders, where I like come in and they're like, I have an emotional attachment to posting like this by myself or like sending this invoice. And I'm like slowly ripping it from their hands. There's a better way. There's a better life. And like
Oh
eventually when your house is
gosh.
spotless, you're psyched. But there's a little bit of that hoarder scenario where it's like, it's just habits we've done forever. I have clients where we do their full inbox systematized. We give them hours back from their inbox and they're still tempted to go creep and break the system. And like, this is your new life. This is the new way that this works. And so it takes a little bit to break those habits. Like you said, sometimes we're emotionally invested in the tasks. And one of the things that I tell Jess and other friends all the time, I think the main problem so many women business owners have is we believe that hard work is required to reach
Yeah.
the things that we want, that we think we can only get through hustle. So
Yeah.
we think hustle is required for us to hit these big goals. That's why if we're not hustling, it's almost this imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, I'm not working 80 hours a week. Who am I to make $1 million? The truth is you're a CEO and you're a boss. And that's what
Yeah.
you deserve if you put the right things in place. And so I think for so many of us, it's hard to believe that we can work less and make more. And so we put that narrative into existence and it self perpetuates. And so we say like, things have to be hard. I have to work hard. I have to hustle hard to make more money. And so we make things harder than they need to be. And that's really what I'm trying to break is, let go of these beliefs that it has to be really hard. Let go of these beliefs that it has to be really difficult. I'm not saying owning a business is easy. I'm saying it can be simple. And I think there's a huge difference between those two words. It is not easy, but it is simple to put things in place and run the systems. The systems run the business and the people run the systems. Let your systems work for you.
I could listen to you all day long. And I could talk about this topic all day long. However, for those who are listening and they're wanting to know more, how do they work with you? What do you offer? I know you're obviously working with clients one-on-one and that fills up really quickly, but you have some other things available for people who just want to like dip a toe into getting their SHIT together in terms of their business system. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So the best place to start is with a free training that I offer. I think when people are brand new to systems, I'm like we talked about, I want you to make informed decisions. And so I want to walk you through for free, just how to scale your business. What are the tenets of scaling your business in a way that doesn't require 80-hour work weeks or a ton of your time. And so I have a free training that I walk people through. And then at the end of that, we can talk about some of the options of what's kind of best for you. And so I have a program called Systems for Scale. That's a great program that walks you through literally every single system I have available. And the crazy thing in that course, and my business coach was just saying, they were like, you have to raise the price of this. This is insane that you're giving this away. I literally give you all of the systems I use to run my business now. And so I'm giving you, it's literally plug and play templates for every single system, financial, service, sales, everything. It's just plug and chug, which is really nice. So that's Systems for Scale. And that's what I think most people are looking for, right? We're not looking to, so many people have invested in so many courses and they're like, Kate, I can't take another course. I'm like, I hear you. I'm there. So I'm not into offering people learn with me programs. I'm into done for you solutions. And that's what Systems for Scale is. These are done for you solutions. And then for people that are like, Kate, I need that hand holding. I am that hoarder and I'm listening and I'm like, come save me from myself. I totally get it. That's the type of person I am too. I need someone sitting there holding my hand, doing it with me. So I offer in that case 2-day intensives where we actually build from start to finish your entire either sales or service system. So if you're someone that you've gotten to a certain point in your business and you're like, I cannot continue to put more time into this, but I need my business to grow, you're probably an intensive person. Or you can do the Systems for Scale where you put them in yourself. It's just really the type of person that you are. And so those are kind of the two options for getting those systems in place.
Well, I'm going immediately to your website after this to look into all of those. And I'll make sure to link everything in the show notes so people can find you and connect with you, where's your favorite place to hang out on social media? Where can people find you?
I am all about the gram. You can always find me on Instagram. If you got some DMs, I love to hear it. Like I was telling Lindsay, I could talk systems all day, every day. So if you have questions, definitely hit me up there. I'm at Work Well with Kate.
Perfect. Oh my goodness. I can't thank you enough for spending a few minutes with me today. And we always wrap up on one question, because I do believe that one of the best ways that we learn as fellow women chasing big ideas and dreams is through the experience of others. And this show and this community really exists to help women get out of their own way and take that next action step toward their big idea. So what would you say from your experience and your story, that if you had just one message to give women who are coming along beside you and behind you to encourage them to take that next step, what would you say?
Yeah. I really think, and it's so cliche because I'm the systems person, so people are like, of course, this is a quote I heard forever ago, but the truth is time is the only renewable resource, and it's the only true luxury in life that you can't get back. And so when you're thinking about your business, I think it's so tempting to put relationships to the side, to put our family to the side, to put our other goals to the side and just focus on our business. And that's really what I want to break people from, because in that you're losing that time with people. You're losing that time that you have. And that's you can always make more money. You can always get more things, but you can't always make more time. So I think if you're spending 80, 90 hours a week in your business and you're not seeing results, remember that the only luxury you have in life is time. And so if you're not spending it the way you want to spend it, that's where you have to make the change. Make that change before changing anything else. And I promise you, you're going to see the results you want to see.
Kate, thanks so much for being here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Lindsay. Your community is absolutely amazing. I'm so in awe of what you've created, and I'm so happy I get to be a part of it.